Right. As I said this morning, I planned to do something. I'm still not quite certain of what it is, but I'm going to talk about this thing of, difference. How important it is to be, approach pottery in your way. It's a result of the John Carrasco. I'm trying to pronounce your name, John, because I'm a bit dim. Every time I look at your name, I think that's how you pronounce it. No. Anyway, John, sorry, but thanks for letting me do that. And but seeing other people drawing is quite a revelation, and so many different ways, and some amazing drawings and portraits, paintings. And I just thought about this thing of comparison and doing things the same way as other people, which is not necessarily a comparison, but it's fallen into that kind of category. And but at the same time, being different, approaching something in a unique way, and that doesn't mean consciously doing it. This means trusting in your response to another face, to another human, trusting in that. So forget about process. This is not about process. It's about how you respond to other people, and that is the critical factor. It's not, when you see these ateliers where they're all in rows and they're all drawing exactly the same, that's what you want to avoid, because that's going to be from my point of view, that would be a nightmare, because I don't want to do it like everybody else. I want to do it my way. I want to be unique in my response. I don't want to trust in my response, my human ability. And I think that's probably what came out of seeing all these amazing drawings. And I'm not, I don't take anything away from them. They're just skillful and just amazing. But I do it this way, so which is good. And I think that's how it should be. And we all should respect that. That everybody's, in terms of the way we respond to a subject, it's always going to be different, and it should be. If it's not, then there's something wrong. But I don't think the problem is it's easy to say that, but it's so hard to sort of stick to it. From your own personal point of view, it's like it's inevitable. You look at other work and you think, wow, it's just incredible, and it's inevitable you'll compare. I think as I've just been speaking to an artist now, it said basically you've got to be oblivious to other people's work. So he was kind of making out that artists should be either oblivious or psychopaths. Basically, that's what he said, and I think he's probably right. You would definitely have to be oblivious to others and accept. But I from a point of view of my exposure to creativity and my upbringing, it was a case of, this is great, you should do it like this, or why don't you do it like that? Why can't you draw like so and so? That kind of thing. So it's inevitable you're going to put pressure on yourself to be like so and so. And my way of dealing with it is acceptance. I think that's the thing. This is my way, and I accept other people's way, but this is my way. I accept that it's different to other people's work, and that's fine. I don't think it's doing it differently just to be different, though. That's one of the things that I think is pretty important. It's not a case of just doing it for the sake of being, but for being different. The kind of shock and awe thing that most contemporary artists will do is just to do exactly that, to be different. But that's not right, is it? I mean, that the contrivance of all that is probably detrimental to the art anyway. Art has to be. I never understand about activism in art and all that. It's just art is in itself it can't be sullied by other things that really above, below what art is. The state of art is paramount, and to basically dilute its strength using it for some other gain is just like it's like a sort of prostitution of it. But having said that, it's each their own. Back to the if that's what you think art's about, then that's fine by me. But anyway, I think the result is, from my point of view, is that it it manifests as I'm doing it. This thing of doing it my way. I can see that. The things that I look at. I just seen somebody do the John Carriasco portrait, the same one as me, and broke it down into stages, and it's completely different to what I do. And I think that's. I like that. I like I mean, I would never do it the way they do it because it just wouldn't suit my way of working. But nevertheless, it's a way of working, and it's their way of working. The trouble with these kind of academic kind of institutions, it's purported to be the only way of doing it, which is the dangerous thing, because there's making art's like skinning a cat, as the saying goes. Not literally, obviously, but it's that there are many ways to make art, and if you let your response drive the way you make art, then you're going to have a much more pure art, and probably create art of worth, because you have the purity in it. This is the problem when it's a contrivance. It's difficult to put purity into it. It's because it's the deliberation. The deliberation drives away the spontaneity and so on and so forth. So and if it's response that's driving it, then that too would be overridden by a contrivance. Follow this path, find the planes, and all that kind of stuff. But yeah, as I said, I'm more understanding of what I've just had a student talking to me about exactly the same thing. Not the same guy talks about as being psychopaths, but another chap. And the way that it manifests in his work is quite intriguing, because I'm sort of big on starts. It's like, when you start something, when you start a portrait, a drawing, or anything, it's such a important phase, and the way you start it determines everything. So if it's a responsive approach like this, you really need to see life in those marks that are at the beginning of the portrait. And if they're not in there, there is something else that's driving that. And in this guy's starts, I can see that there is some kind of early conditioning of how you should draw. The problem is that I think to some extent that I'd asked him to do the starts, and maybe I put some pressure on him or whatever, but that's one of the problems. So he thinks I've got some kind of expectation, which I haven't. I just want to see how he starts. But I can see in the marks that there is a residue of, or there's more than a residue of, the conditioning of, this is how you draw, that kind of thing. And if you don't do it like this, then you're not doing it right. That there's definitely that in his drawings, and it may not be a sort of institutionalized conditioning. It might be a case of, the Muggles just saying to him, "Oh, you draw it like this. This is how some art teacher or whatever that's said something to him, or a parent or a friend or whatever, and they said, this is how it is." Or even worse, giving them an example and saying, "This, draw it like this," which is the age-old problem of hairdressers. I think people turn up with pictures of film stars with hairstyles, and they've got their ugly fizzog, and they're asking them to say, "Make me look like this." That must be a nightmare if you're a hairdresser. I'm sorry, I can't. You'll have to go somewhere else. I think that would be my response, I'm afraid. And which is if I tell you, one of my ancestors was a fishmonger, and he would only serve fish to people he liked, and I think that's a fantastic way of living. So only work with people you like, only draw people you like. It's like, in fact, someone said to me once when I was talking about, I don't know, I had a bad client, and they said, and he was one of my old bosses, and he said, "Yeah, but you've only ever worked with people you liked," and I thought that was a compliment. It was a compliment to him as well, because I worked for him for 8 years. So it's one of those things. I think that if in some way somebody inadvertently says this is what your art should be, then I don't know. It's such a detrimental thing. And if you're not strong enough to deal with that, then it'll sit there right in the back of your brain and it'll fester away. And every time you pick up a pencil, you start doing it in a way that you think is compliant to this suggestion that's been planted in there, and you have no chance. You have no chance of finding your true self, which is the ultimate goal, you know. But yeah, as I say, it's complicated. I think that's probably the upshot of it. And even when I, you know, as I say, I'm quite resilient to this sort of thing. But I see these amazing drawings, as I say, of John, and I can't help but look at them in comparison to mine. I can't help doing that. It's just one of the things we do as artists. I haven't come to any conclusion on that, whether or not mine's better or theirs better or whatever. I'm not that damaged that I have to do that assessment. But I can just say that they are some amazing drawings, and that's it. But as I say, it's not. It's if you think that it has to be like somebody else, if you think that that's the yardstick of your endeavors, then you've got to be very careful that it doesn't impede your growth, because it will. You know, it's the back to the age old inspiration thing, inspiration versus admiration thing. So you've got to be in a fairly strong, determined, relaxed, you know, all those sort of things about your work. And you see that, and I always say this, and then we start talking about this is a portrait, and there is immense pressure on doing a portrait and all that. It always comes back to that. Yeah, but it's a portrait. It's always going to be difficult. You're always trying to please somebody, and it's true, you are. But back to this trust in your response thing. Your response to another face, you know, forgetting about the sort of skills and the application of techniques and all that sort of thing. Forget about that. But your response to a face is the one thing that you have mastery over. Even now, even before you've developed any skills, you've got that. You have mastery over your response. So ideally, that's the starting point for your uniqueness. That's the starting point for what makes whatever you're going to do special. And trusting in that response is the key, rather than it being trusting the process, as people would say, rather than it being that, trusting your response and that it will be unique and it will be correct in the way that you respond to them. I mean, obviously, this is back to whether you like them or not. You know, if they give you the creeps or whatever, then it's going to be a bit hard to make a genuine portrait of them. You know, this is why you see I've seen a few of these professional portraits recently, where they stood behind a chair or whatever, you know, that kind of thing. And they're creepy people. These are creepy buggers that they've been drawing. You know, these are just like, oh, you won't let these people in your house. You won't let them look after your kids. But there's a portrait of this guy stood behind your chair or whatever, with his hand in his pocket and wearing a blazer. And they're the worst kind of portraits, aren't they? They're never going to be great portraits, aren't they? They're never going to be in some museum or such. They'll just be passed down the family line, and one day someone will put it on the wall and someone will say, take that down, that gives me the creeps. You know, yeah, but it's my great granddad. I don't care, it still gives me the creeps. But as I said, that's a different kind of thing, I think, because that's not a, you know, I drew him because I liked him, drew him because I got to know him, drew him because he was a genuinely nice guy. No, he was a captain of industry who exploited his workers and you know, all that kind of thing, which is probably true of half the portraits that are in these great big museums. They're all tyrants. You know? So, but as I said, you've really got to develop a method of connecting with or exploiting your ability to connect with other humans. That's really what it's about, and that's the thing that drives everything. So it'll drive the way that it feels. Like I did that thing this morning. I was talking about exactly the same thing, and that's what will drive the way that your portrait feels. And it's all about that. It's all about allowing that response to manifest in everything, whether it's the marks, the skills, the techniques, or whatever. It's all about that, and accepting the outcome, because that's going to be unique to you. It won't be like anybody else's. And, you know, how you got there is going to be different to somebody else's. And that's all cool. That's the best bit. And every art teacher and every academy will tell you the same, that you know, uniqueness of your manifestation in terms of art is the ultimate goal. It's never going to be about, we're going to just churn out like a factory thing. You know, it's never going to be about that in genuine academic situations. It's always going to be about producing artists that are able to express their unique response to the world. But that's hard for us mortals who don't have those kind of, like I said this morning, I would have loved it, although I wouldn't fit in, but like I would have loved the academic opportunities, the Florence and all that. I would have loved all that, but I just didn't have the means, and it just, you know, it's where the cookie crumbles, isn't it? But so from our point of view, we're sort of floundering around trying to second guess all this stuff, where they've already worked it all out, and some will instigate sort of, you know, sort of the route that everybody else, you know, the trodden path thing. Everybody else is successful because they follow this exact formula, but some will actually understand about allowing people to flourish and to reach their potential. I remember when Jackson, my eldest, went to his interview was at an art college to do fine art. He came across a lady who was the head of course, and she said, "I will not teach you. We will not teach you to make art. We will not teach you to paint. We will not teach you to draw or anything like that." She said, part of the course will involve those things, but primarily we'll teach you to think." And I thought, oh, God, I wish somebody had said that to me when I was looking. Admittedly, I didn't do fine art, but if someone says that to you, you think, oh, this person's got a real grasp of the reality of it all, you know. But I don't know how common that is. I've no experience. When he actually went to a university, it wasn't that one. So we never fully, all kinds of reasons. And, you know, not least of all that that particular one was so underfunded that they had no space for, they had my little 2 meter square studio, right, is big enough for me. When he went to this college, the facilities was a 2 meter square for 6 students who would rotate through this. Now that's not right, is it? You know, no art institution should confine their artists to a cell, you know, which is what it was, and expect them to rotate. It's a bit like those sort of guys that, you know, on the shipping boats that have to rotate their beds. You know, it's a bit like that. But that's never going to be conducive, is it? So that's probably the primary reason why he didn't follow through with that particular course. But as I said, this is one of the things about talking and doing it. One of the things about talking and doing it for me is that it disengages the consciousness thing. I don't think the left and right brain thing is an actual. I know people say it is, but from my point of view, I'm not sure it's an actual physical, you know, thing that happens. And oh yeah, there's scientific evidence and all that sort of stuff. I'm still pretty sure that both sides of the brains are involved in this process, but people like to think it's, you know, it's something other than the obvious, and so they sort of romanticize it, I think. But I do like the disconnection from the logic of things and the justification of things and the analysis of things, other than the visual analysis. I do like that, because so when I'm talking, that's what's happening, because it does remove the need to justify and to as I said, talk through. I mean, I know I talk through what I'm doing, but talk through it to yourself, and say, I'm doing this because I'm doing this because. I mean, this is why I don't talk a lot about what I'm doing, because it's not really it's not to put in words. I think that's probably the main thing. I don't think that verbalizing what you're doing is any kind of help, because sometimes you just don't know why you're doing it. It's the response thing. So and to try and verbalize it, it's just, I think it demeans it a little bit. I think it sort of takes it down to a function, you know. But like I say, it's not. I like the idea of not talking, of not thinking about it when I'm doing it, and just overriding it by talking. I've just done a demo on it was a feedback thing. Somebody sent me some work, and I did a video feedback. I can't type what I'm saying and what I think. So it's much better to sort of make a video and send the video back to him. And it was interesting how, when I was talking about John yesterday, I was doing John. I think it was yesterday or the day before, I think. It was interesting how the charcoal was sort of an integral part of the response. I don't hold much store in the, you know, you must have the right kit and all that sort of thing. I don't think that's for me. I don't think that's a thing, because it becomes an obstacle. Isn't it? Oh, I haven't got the right paper. I haven't got the right crayons. I haven't got whatever. But the particularly with this approach, which you can see, it's quite a fluid and explorative kind of approach. The way that the charcoal behaves is quite impact. It has quite an impact on the way that I draw, and which is fascinating, really, because it's how much of this is down to, you know, the mark making, the blending, whatever you want to call it, the flow of things. How much is that impacted by the way that the charcoal works? You know, the way, and also the precision of things. Because I've just said about the feedback thing. I like the way that when the charcoal flows and it makes marks in the right place, but it's all part of the flow. If the charcoal doesn't flow, you know, it doesn't make the right density, for instance, as you flow, it's gonna impact on the way you draw. You can't help it, can you? Because if you're doing it with pencil, you know, I'm trying to, because one of this guy for the feedback was that he was trying to find the edges of a cheek, but at the same time he was having to work at it to define the edge of this cheek. That need to control the medium in order to define the element he was trying to define, that's an obstacle. That's an obstacle that gets in the way. You'll come to a time where it's not an obstacle, but at the moment it's an obstacle for him because he has to consider and he has to physically make those marks in order to define the element that he was trying to define. But the problem with that is that if you're following this route, which is a more expressive route, more responsive route, it might not be right. So you're putting a lot of effort into making a mark because the tool's making you do it in a certain way, and it's not in the right place. But if it's just a case of a mark which you can then adjust, like you'll see on mine, then it's different again. But it only happens if the medium will allow it to flow with no effort. Again, it's back to that making marks with no effort thing that I talk about with charcoal. But then again, that's paper as well. So it's not always just about the charcoal. Yeah, I'd say I'm doing the one this morning. It was very much like this. It was very responsive and almost, well, I'll show you. It's almost wrong, you know, but it's right because it's wrong, which is crazy. This one. So look at the changes in charcoal as well. It's mad, isn't it? I think this paper looks like white paper. It does. It's different colour. You see, I have this thing. I call it paper roulette because I've said this paper, the cartridge paper. I buy that 250 sheets of that, and then I chew through that, and then occasionally, wherever this came from, I use different paper, but it gets mixed up within the pile. So some days I might come across this, which is, as I say, the paper roulette thing. So all of a sudden I've got to work on this. It makes no difference, but you know, you still get the same effect. But it's interesting, as I say, lots of wrong marks in that. I mean, I haven't finished it. I won't bother to finish it, but you can see the ears too, you know, too light and things. But it was the consequence of the marks that I'm interested in. I'm interested in this. You know, I don't want to be able to blend that across there because I've caught the face. The face is there and she's living right in front of you. That, if you get to that point, it's pretty sure that you know you don't want to take it further because you've got the essence of that face, apart from the ear being a bit too bright. But apart from that, it's all about that capturing that essence. And I don't think you can do that if you're tethered to some tool that's not performing properly. You know, it's not doing you the allowing you to flow. And another reason why I like homemade charcoal, because when I did the demo this morning, the feedback, I got a piece of this willow stuff, and I snapped it off to try and show him that you need to be working with thicker pieces, or you know, or pieces that aren't to be drawn with. And this is a piece of Dana Rowney, I think, absolutely useless. Makes no marks whatsoever. That. So as I said, it's kind of, for me, it's become more of a dependency, I suppose, in terms of if I've not got it, if I haven't got my own stuff, I will struggle on. But I'm so grateful when I have a decent burn and I've got lots of charcoal that I can use, my own charcoal that I can use. It's just a dream. It's just a pleasure to work with. There's no struggle, and that's a big thing. Somebody said last night, we did a lesson last night. Somebody said that she could see my struggle. There is no struggle. If you've ever watched any of my videos, you know it's very rarely that I'm struggling. I'm not saying it's perfect. I'm not saying that at all. I'm just saying that to say that I am having difficulty with certain things. It might be that it's, you know, sometimes the paper breaks down or whatever, and I might have problems with that. But generally speaking, it's not a struggle. It's always about the adventure thing. If it becomes difficult, that's a different thing. That's not struggle. But if it becomes difficult to define something, and you know the tones become complicated, then yeah, it just becomes hard work, I suppose. And that can show. The danger with that is that you try too hard with it. You know, somebody mentioned this morning about you have to work through these issues. You know, the trouble with that is that if you're not careful, that will destroy the life in it. I'd be tempted to say, leave it. You know, if it's not working, either put it down and start again with another one. Don't start the same one again. But if it's not detrimental to the portrait, leave it as it is. Leave it as it is. It's not if it's not a critical part of the portrait, leave it. Because that's the other thing as well. You can get bogged down by the wrong things. You know, you can get bogged down by things that are unimportant to the portrait. So again, it's you know, a knowing thing. You know, what's important about this portrait and so on and so forth. It's that knowing thing. But these are all complicated. They're all complicated by the fact that the knowing implies that you know, and if you know, what's the knowledge based on? Is it based on somebody else's knowledge? You know, this is how somebody else dealt with that thing, whatever it is that you think you're struggling with. So it's complicated. It's a bit. We're going back to the psychopath, by the way, the oblivious psychopath, which is quite. I think I might rename my channel to be the oblivious psychopath. So, although I might get arrested or something, so I won't bother with that. So, but the idea that just don't really concern yourself with those things, and then perhaps you'll find the truth. But yeah, I don't know. As I said, it is complicated, and it can be complicated if you let it be complicated. But I think the trick for me is do lots of them. Do lots of portraits. Just do loads. Good, bad, indifferent, whatever. Who cares? Just do loads of portraits. Just make loads of portraits. And I suppose the next question is, where do we get the references from, or who do we get to sit? That's when people have a go at me for not doing live. Can you imagine how many times I'd have to set a studio up or get a model to turn up, and how many times? If I'm doing they'll probably be doing 3 today. How many? Where do I get 3 models from to come and sit for me? It's just not a reality, is it? It might be reality for people who, I don't know, more professional than me, or professional full stop. I wouldn't consider myself professional, but you know what I mean. But the thing for me is, and it's not about the volume either, by the way. It's just the not having time to think is the thing. So spend too much time thinking about it, not enough time doing it, and it's always going to be detrimental. But it's all right. I'm just tweaking a few of the tones. What I do like about the homemade charcoal on this paper is this, when I sort of smudge like that, there's kind of a painterly feel about it. It's like I put a wash on it. And I do like that. It's another sort of tonal dimension to it. I think that's what I like about it. It's not a contrived blend as such. I don't know, although I will whip the foam out, the foam on a stick thing out if it's a bit too dark. But I like the less kind of formal approach to tones, and that's on that one I did this morning. There's a lot of that on there, and I was trying to explain to somebody the other day about describing tones with no effort. Describing tones and tonal variance and light and shade without any specific kind of deliberation. For me, I like that. I like that because it's to draw without a dependency on execution. That's the thing. So the marks have a different kind of priority. They're no longer about the skill in which I employed to do this. It's about other things other than the skill. But yeah, I'm probably going to leave this now because it's just about there. I don't know how far I'm going to go with the shirt at the bottom there, and but it's just about there. What I need to do with it is just to rectify some of these relationships. The eye is just about right. It needs to be white in there and needs to be slightly rounder. This here needs to be a little bit higher up there. The mouth probably needs a little bit more work on the the shape of things, and as it feeds off there as well, needs to be, and the roundness there. But all of this is just the finishing thing, the finesse of it all. But I'm not too worried about that. You can see the face has to be this wide-eyed, looking up, kind of curious. This is, what's that film called? Close Encounters. Now she's looking up. There's light coming from the top of the image. Well, this is the Close Encounters pose, and it's supposed to talk about Rembrandt lighting. This is Close Encounters lighting. So that's what it has to have. It has to have that feeling of her looking up to the stars, and going back to the emotional thing, that's how I'm seeing it. That's my response. So, and that's kind of what I'm aiming for. And if that's the response is my goal, then I'm pretty much, from my point of view, I'm pretty much there. So, And I've liked recently in the classes we're doing more deliberately doing more. I can't use the word awkward, but you know what I mean. A different kind of angle of head tilted back, just because I don't know. It proposes different kind of it poses different kind of problems, which is, and it's fairly straightforward to align this. So alignments against horizontals and things, it's fairly straightforward to align this, but some of them looking at ones are a little bit more obtuse. So it just presents a different kind of challenge, and I like that. It makes the drawing become or the method or become more challenging, and it asks you to look better. It asks you to look at things more with more accuracy, to see with more accuracy. I think that's what doing things like this present. But as I said, it's just about there, apart from the cleaning up. I might have to sort of sharpen this charcoal, although I'm trying to not to. I'm trying to stay within the whatever this piece will do. I'm also resisting using any, the sponge on a stick or a cotton bud or whatever. So yeah, I'm going to leave it at that. The hair, the eyes and the hair is probably where I can't focus any more effort. Maybe a little bit of effort into the parts of her neck that are highlighted and things, just to give it a little bit more. Although this stuff is irrelevant. This is not part of the face. The only thing that matters on this face is the eyes, and possibly the mouth. The mouth could just do it a little bit more height just there, and just dropping on this corner. But it's just basic stuff. But yeah, so I suppose to sum up what I'm talking about is this: the difference is based on, and why being different is good, is based on your unique response. I can't, that's it. I can't probably, if you want to learn techniques and all that to get to a face, fine, but it has to be based on your unique response to that face. It can't be somebody else's response. It can't look like somebody else's response. It shouldn't be. If it's going to be any good, it won't. It must be your unique view of this face, your unique view of the world, or whatever you want to, bend on your subject you're working on. It has to be those things. But looks all right, that actually. Even though it's not in black, I don't know whether or not I want it to be black. This is black, and I suspect it doesn't have the. I mean, it becomes a little bit illustrative, that, but that one has got much more of a softness about it. But having said that, if you've seen me work on the kids stuff, I've worked on kids paper, and you have no density whatsoever. This stuff is transparent. It's 70 grams, but the flow of the charcoal on it is just off the scale. I'd pay money for that, and it was like sort of £3 for a pad of this paper. They don't stock it anymore, but I got loads of it, and I did quite a few drawings on it and really liked it. So I'm not going to, lose any sleep over the fact that this is not grey enough and not black enough. I don't think it's that important. Which goes back to the tonal balance thing, because you kind of work within the values you're able to achieve. It's not a case of, I can't get as black as it on there because it's black on the reference or whatever else. You just work within the capabilities of the medium and the paper, and that's kind of what you should do. It's the best way to learn about the relationship of tone, to work with things that won't replicate, that kind of thing. So for me, that's quite an important thing. And as I say, I'm going to sort of live with the grayness of this. but I'm going to spend time just getting the hairs just right. What I'm concerned with at the moment is the width. That's the thing that because hair has to look like it belongs on that head. Does that hair look too small for that head? It does a little bit, and that's the question. So, would that head fit under that hair? Is usually the question I ask myself. Does it look like that hair is, belongs to that head? Then that's how I determine whether or not it's big enough. There's comparisons as well, but that's a global comparison. Does it look like big enough to contain the skull? Is a global comparison, and it's not far off. It's not far off at all. The face is quite wide anyway. I don't know whether or not I'm going to make it super dark here and so you can see the edge of a cheek and a jaw. I don't know yet. I kind of like this smudge here that's under there, which makes no attempt to be anything other than a smudge, and then come under here. I like that. Yeah, probably a little bit too in and out just there. We'll just take that out. And now it's too might be a bit too dark, although I could do with a bit of dark on the chin, on the cheek rather. Yeah, a few highlights here and there, and I think we're done. Right, okay. I'll love and leave you, and hopefully I made a bit of sense. I often think, oh my God, what have I said? Well, no, and I dare watch them back, because if I watch them back, I'll take them down. Because I say such silly things. Anyway, I'll catch you in the next one.